Welcome to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives with Rebecca Hall-Gruyter. In our program each week, we provide the tools, ideas, and encouragement to help you move ahead on your journey, becoming a more powerful and impactful woman in your own life. Now here's your host, Rebecca Hall-Gruyter.
Welcome, everyone. I hope that you're having an absolutely amazing day, that as we come together, you're remembering how valuable, important, and needed you are in the world. And one of the things I find is sometimes we try to do things all on our own, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, that we somehow start to believe this myth that life is a solo journey, and it just isn't. We have the opportunity, we're going to bust that myth. We have the opportunity to lean in, to come together, to support and lift each other up. So important. And each of us can do that. And one of the things I love about the opportunity to connect with each of you and to come together on a weekly basis is we get to support each other. We get to bring on amazing experts and leaders who can support us on our journey, that we can lean into, we can learn from and discover. And our amazing guest today is an expert in the bipolar space, and she's really going to share with us and give us hope and help and encouragement for those of you who struggle with bipolar personally or know somebody that does. What I have even found in talking with her, that I have learned some great tips and tools to add to my toolbox, even though bipolar isn't something that I struggle with. Her tips, her wisdom, her insights have been so valuable. So I actually feel like our call today, our show today, our time together is an opportunity for all of us to get help, to have hope, and to encourage ourselves and learn as we get support on our journey. So welcome, everybody. I'm just honored to have you here with me today. And I want to invite you to take a deep breath in through the nose and all the way to your toes. Then breathe out through your mouth like through a straw. Isn't it amazing how beautifully supportive that deep breath can be? And I find, even though I do this practice and I meet with you every week and we focus in on pausing, being present and breathing, I still forget to breathe fully and deeply, especially if there's stress or I'm excited about something. And yet when I can remember to stop and breathe, everything loosens a little bit, gets easier and more focused. So I want to encourage you to breathe deeply with us today. So close your eyes. You're absolutely safe. Take another deep breath in. Becoming fully present. This time is for you to support, encourage, and empower you. Feel that support. Put both hands on your heart. Keep breathing. And as you're pausing and leaning in, becoming present, what message are you hearing? What message is laid on your heart? Heartbeat by heartbeat. Or perhaps it's that pause in between the beats. What is your heart reminding you of today? Encouraging you? What is it that you need to help support you on your journey? Let's listen and see and receive. What is it that you need and are willing to receive? Beautiful. Let's take in that information. Wonderful. Let's take another breath. Eyes open, fully present. So we come back into the room, and as we do so, I'm going to invite our guest on to see what was laid on her heart when she took a moment to stop, pause, and listen. Michelle, I'd love for you to share What was laid on your heart?
I was thinking about how during my earlier years when I was really sick, I believed that my life had no value, that everyone around me would be better off if I was gone, and how grateful I am that I learned that that's not true, and that each person has tremendous value and purpose and importance in this world.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And listeners, I hope you drink that in, because each of you has incredible value and purpose and are absolutely needed. So today, as we come together, I want you to drink that in deeply. I want you to really listen to what's being laid on your heart, and have your paper and pen ready, because I know that you're here for a reason. I know there is something for you today in our conversation by the very nature of you tuning in, and I want you to receive it. So let's keep breathing, stay present and open, leaning in with anticipation that you're excited to discover something new that can support you on your journey. Some tips and tools you can add to your toolbox and resources to come alongside you and help you really claim your value, your worth, that you're absolutely needed, and support on the journey, as we can have those swings in our moods or in how things are hitting us in life, to keep staying grounded in that truth of how important and valuable you are. As we go to our first commercial break, I want you to keep listening to what is being laid on your heart. Write down things as they bubble up, and we will continue our conversation in just 2 minutes.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Announcing a powerful new TV channel featuring programs designed to enhance and transform your life. Make powerful connections, one program at a time. And by doing so, we can bring transformation to the world. Tune in each week to Empowered Connections TV as we add new programs to help you make empowered connections of your own. Visit empoweredconnectionstv.com. That's empoweredconnectionstv.com. And make the most of an incredible life transformation.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Rebecca Hall Gruyter's Speaker Talent Search is looking for speakers wanting to get on more stages. With just one audition, you could open the doors to hundreds of speaking opportunities, reach more people, and expand your impact. Finalists get to audition live in front of leaders looking to fill all kinds of speaking opportunities. Apply now at SpeakerTalentSearch.com. That's SpeakerTalentSearch.com. We look forward to hearing your message.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives with your host, Rebecca Hall Gruyter. If you have a question or comment for Rebecca or her guest, we'd love to hear from you. Please call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to Rebecca at yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. Now back to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed those 2 minutes and had the opportunity to really listen to what was being laid on your heart and spirit. Sometimes we're just moving so fast, we can miss those prompts. We can miss that reminder that can be laid on our heart, that can be laid on our spirit. So I encourage you during the commercial breaks that we've built into the show, those are opportunities for you to stop, pause, listen, integrate, drink in what serves, breathe out, release what no longer does. Now, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our amazing guest. I know that you are going to be encouraged and empowered by her. Her name is Michelle Reittinger, and she was diagnosed with bipolar in 1998. She spent the last 12 years, those past 12 years, on a roller coaster of manic and depressive episodes with therapists and doctors and meds and hospitalization and suicide attempts. Finally, she found a solution that changed her story, and she was able to bring healing and recovery into her life. And now she stands for you. Now she teaches a research-based integrated model that helps address the underlying causes of bipolar symptoms and helps people heal. She's an author, a podcast host, and is passionate about helping you heal and thrive. Please lean in. Warmly welcome the powerful, inspiring, and dynamic Michelle Reittinger. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You are so welcome. Honored and thrilled to have you joining us. And I have learned so much from the opportunities I've had to get to know you. And we're going to talk about your upcoming book in a little bit. So I'm very excited to welcome you and share you with all of my listeners. And I thought as we start our conversation, it would be really helpful for us to talk about couple things. One, I always like to know why this work is important to you. You've dedicated so much time. It's a huge undertaking to write a book. You are a podcast host. You do so much in this space to help. So why it's important to you to do this. And if you could explain what bipolar is, because I feel like we hear the term, but we don't always know what it is or what it means. So I'd appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. I think the easiest way to address these is just to share my experience. I was diagnosed in 98, as you mentioned, with bipolar. I was 1 month away from graduating from college, and the 2 years leading up to that, I had increasingly erratic mood symptoms. I would have times when I was really elevated in my mood. I would talk really rapidly, get really excited, change my major over and over again, get new life plans, and then I would crash and I would get really depressed. I would have a hard time wanting to go out. I'd spend a lot of time watching television. And my parents pleaded with me to go see somebody, and I was diagnosed with bipolar. And at the time, I was told that bipolar was a chemical imbalance and that I would have it for the rest of my life and I would need medication to manage it. And I believed what I had been told, and I did what I was told to do, and things just got worse. And for the first 12 years, I suffered so much. And I got to a point, like I mentioned earlier, I just believed that my life wasn't worth living and that my family, everyone around me would be better off if I was just gone. Because I thought the best I could expect out of life was learning how to suffer well. And when I finally started discovering the steps to healing, I didn't actually know I was healing at the time, but I eventually got to the point where I realized I was actually recovering. And I felt at first very angry that I felt like I'd been lied to. But then I started thinking, well, it doesn't do any good to be angry. Who am I going to be angry with? But I started thinking, who could I help? I thought these are things I wish somebody had told me when I was younger. It would have helped me avoid a lot of suffering and struggle. And so that's why I started my podcast and my blog and eventually wrote my book, because I wanted to help other people the way that I wish that I had been helped. And I feel very, very driven by that. I am so blessed in my life. I do not experience symptoms any longer. I've fully recovered, and I want to help other people achieve that in their own lives.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And I just want to revisit a couple of things you shared in sharing a little bit of your story. I don't want anyone to miss that the number of years, so many years that you struggled with this and up and down and a depressive state, suicide attempts, intense hospitalization, and yet you kept going, which is just a testament to you. That takes a lot of courage and perseverance, and that you were able to find a way to heal those things that caused the symptoms and the imbalances. And so I had a question: what helped you keep going? So I love that you are so committed to helping others so they can suffer less and they can get the support. But I'm also thinking, what is it that helped you keep going through all those years, to keep trying new things, to not give up? What helped you keep going?
It was my family. It was interesting because my mind convinced me my family needed somebody else. I think that my mind was in so much distress and I was suffering so much that it was trying to find a way out. And I am so dedicated to my children and my family, my husband, that my brain had to convince me that they would be better off if I was gone. And I had an experience one day that helped me see that as a lie. And I realized that if I ended my life, that it would ruin my daughter's life, my son's life, my husband's life. And so I did it for them. In my mind, I would be willing to suffer for the rest of my life if it meant that they wouldn't suffer unnecessarily. And gratefully, as I went through the process of just trying to figure out how to suffer well, I started finding the tools necessary to actually heal. And I didn't know I was healing when I was going through that process. But I just kept persisting because I thought, well, each time I would find something, it would make things easier and I would be able to handle things better. And so I think that was one of the things that was really critical was having a reason to keep trying, because it isn't easy.
Yes.
And so finding a reason to keep trying, finding a purpose in life, it doesn't have to be children. There are a lot of different things that we can focus on. But that's one of the things that one of my favorite authors is Viktor Frankl. And he talks about how critical it is in our lives to have meaning in our lives, to look for purpose and meaning, so that we have a reason to keep trying when things are difficult.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I want to encourage all of our listeners to make a note of that. What is your purpose? What is a reason to stay and persevere when things are hard? Not if, when they're hard. That thing that can help you keep going, and very quickly being able to identify it. And maybe something's popping up in your heart and mind right now, or that's something you want to spend a little time thinking about, because I think that is a brilliant tool to add to any of our toolboxes for those challenging times. So thank you for sharing what yours was and what helped you, because 12 years, that's a long time, year after year, all the things you've gone through to keep taking steps. And one of the things that you discovered as you went on this journey, that there is a traditional kind of treatment plan that is the kind of the norm, what you see out there, that a lot of experts will prescribe when you're diagnosed this way. And it can feel kind of like this is it. This is what is spoken on your life, your bipolar life sentence kind of thing, and there's a traditional treatment plan and approach. And you have really found an integrated, research-based plan that you have discovered, developed, and kind of are bringing forward. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what each of those are and how they're different?
Certainly. One of the challenges that we have with the traditional approach is it's not actually expressing any curiosity about what's causing these symptoms to occur. Like I said, when I was first diagnosed, I was told I had a chemical imbalance, but the chemical imbalance theory of mental illness has been debunked over and over again. And this idea that we have been diagnosed with a medical condition isn't true either. There's an interesting article in Psychology Today by Dr. Jonathan Shedler that talks about how psychiatric diagnoses are not medical conditions. They're not diseases. They're just symptoms. All we've done is identify the symptoms. And if somebody went into the hospital with a fever, we wouldn't say they have fever disorder. we would recognize the fever is an indication of a body in distress, and we would have curiosity about what's causing the fever. And the same thing I realized was true for my symptoms. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but all that did was identify the symptoms and not the source. And so over the years, as I went through, I started discovering research-based tools that actually get to the source of the symptoms. Micronutrients was critical. And I'm not talking about vitamins from the store. I'm talking about micronutrients that come from there are only a couple of companies that have developed micronutrients specifically for mental health treatment and have been researched thoroughly to prove that they are effective in helping treat, that's critical, one of the underlying sources of symptoms. I also have understood that it's really important when we seek counseling or therapy that we learn how to use that in a proactive way to actually get to the source of trauma or unhealthy thought and behavior patterns or unhealthy coping mechanisms, and learn how to identify treatment modalities that will be effective in treating those and helping you to heal and recover instead of just talk about your problems incessantly. I also learned how to use mindfulness meditation in a way that helped me regain control, put me back in the driver's seat of my brain. A lot of times when you are dealing with bipolar or major depressive disorder or anxiety, you feel like a hostage to your brain. You feel like you are in the passenger seat and your brain is taking you for a ride. And mindfulness meditation was critical in helping put me back in the driver's seat and helping me to regain control of my mind and become friends with my brain again. And then I also learned, additional self-care tools that were essential, learning how to utilize yoga as a somatic therapy for healing and reconnecting with my body and my brain, and utilizing exercise in a healthy way to support, healthy brain function. And then learning how to live mindfully so that I was living intentionally and mindfully in a way that supported overall health so that I could, have a healthy, balanced, productive life.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of great insight and wisdom that you shared there of some of the things that you discovered. And one of the things that's really standing out for me in what you shared is the example that you gave, when we have a fever, we don't have fever disorder. It's really what's causing it. And that a lot of times the traditional approach isn't necessarily looking at that underlying cause. And so that was such a critical step in your journey and to the work that you're doing to really address the underlying causes, bring in support in those spaces, and then the symptoms start to be resolved as the underlying things are being taken care of. Is that a fair statement from what you shared?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the challenges is that when we get diagnosed with these disorders, there is a misunderstanding of what we're actually being diagnosed with, and it leads us to feel like a victim to what we're experiencing because we feel like there is no control and there is nothing we can do about it. And so understanding, that's one of the most important things in my experience, and one of the things that I would encourage people in the audience to do as we're talking about, stepping into your own power is do the research yourself. I in my book, I made sure to include all of the research that I had done so that people can look at those sources for themselves and understand things better themselves. The more knowledge you have, the more understanding you have of these things, the more empowered you are to take back responsibility and control of your own life.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I love that. That is empowering us, giving us the opportunity and tools to be able to learn and understand and bring in that information that can be so important. And one of the things that I know you sent some different things that you could share with us today, and I thought this was really interesting, that what is the difference between coping and managing versus healing and recovering? Because I think sometimes we get lost and mixed up in that space. So what are the differences?
Yeah, and I think that they can be steps on the same path, but the traditional treatment approach is focused on coping and managing. It's focused on the idea that you can't ever recover from these things, and so you're just going to manage the symptoms. You're just going to manage your life. And it is critical to learn how to manage your symptoms effectively, even if you do decide to take the path to healing, because it takes time to heal. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I used to feel before I started taking more responsibility for myself was that anytime I started to experience symptoms, I felt like I was getting yanked onto a roller coaster and I just had to hold on for dear life until it was over. And I had this epiphany one day that nobody was coming to rescue me. Mm-hmm. I knew these cycles were coming, and I had to figure out how to manage them because I didn't want to be a victim to them anymore. And so the first step on the path was learning how to cope and manage more effectively, be more proactive about that. But I didn't stop there, and I would encourage people to recognize that you don't have to stop there. That's the first step. But keep going, because you can continue to identify underlying sources of symptoms and learning how to actually heal and recover so that you get to a point where you don't have to spend the rest of your life coping and managing because you have healed.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. One of the tools that I found really powerful in your book, and there were so many, and we'll be digging into your book a little bit more here later on in the show, but I just thought it tied in really well with what we're talking about right now. You had this chart where here's the normal kind of activities, things that were priorities in the day, and then you had another one that when things were stressed or hard, that very quickly you prioritized, and these are the things that will help me take care of me, because you have to make sure you're taken care of to be able to do those other things. So I love that you can have this plan ahead of time for when those times happen. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Certainly. This is one of the steps in something I call the Mood Cycle Survival Guide. It was a guide I put together for myself initially to try and be more proactive about managing my symptoms, managing the stressors and those kinds of things. And one of the things I recognized is that anytime I would experience either depressive symptoms or manic symptoms, things that mattered most were not being taken care of because I didn't know how to prioritize my life. I didn't know. And so often I'd be trying to do everything. And when I was depressed, it felt like trying to climb a hill in a mudslide. And the harder I tried, the further down I went and the more exhausted I was. And when I was manic, I would get big new ideas, and the things that mattered most would get neglected. And so I identified what the things that were the most important, and I had to identify very few because I oftentimes would have very low emotional resources. And so I went through and identified the different areas of my life. So for me, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And I needed to make sure that my children were being cared for, and I needed to make sure that I had certain self-care things that were being done to take care of myself mentally and emotionally. And so I did those ahead of time so that when I had low emotional threshold or when I was getting ramped up, that I would remember these are the priorities. These need to be done first. If I can do more afterwards, that's great, but this is what matters most. And it was such an amazing thing. The more that I got used to doing that, the quicker I was able to recover, because I was able to prioritize taking care of myself, taking care of the things that mattered most. And those things didn't fall apart when I was struggling, and I was able to recover more quickly.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. What a valuable tool and step that is for all of us to have in our life, to kind of have that laid out ahead of time. So we're not trying to figure that out in the middle of a really difficult, hard time when we're stretched thin. We go to this plan. This is how I can navigate right now. So I just think that was such a great tool. Thank you for sharing about it. We are getting ready to go to our next commercial break. As we do so, listeners, I want you to think about some of what Michelle has said and maybe take a moment and write down what are a couple things that is really important still happen in your daily life when it's challenging. What are some of those critical things that must happen? Let's start to put that list together, and we'll continue our conversation in just 2 minutes.
A little birdie told me Voice America is on X. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Rebecca Hall Gruyter's Speaker Talent Search is looking for speakers wanting to get on more stages. With just one audition, you could open the doors to hundreds of speaking opportunities, reach more people, and expand your impact. Finalists get to audition live in front of leaders looking to fill all kinds of speaking opportunities. Apply now at speakertalentsearch.com. That's speakertalentsearch.com. We look forward to hearing your message.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click Register at the top right.
Announcing a powerful new TV channel featuring programs designed to enhance and transform your life. Make powerful connections, one program at a time. And by doing so, we can bring transformation to the world. Tune in each week to Empowered Connections TV as we add new programs to help you make empowered connections of your own. Visit empoweredconnectionstv.com. That's empoweredconnectionstv.com. And make the most of an incredible life transformation.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives with your host, Rebecca Hall Gruyter. If you have a question or comment for Rebecca or her guest, we'd love to hear from you. Please call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to Rebecca at yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. Now back to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed those 2 minutes and that opportunity to really look at what are those core key things that I want to make sure I'm doing for myself, those critical things, so I can keep going. What are those things when times are hard that you already have a plan? You know, this is a plan when things are challenging. This is what my go-to plan. So I think it's brilliant to start creating some of that. Behind the scenes, Michelle and I were talking a little bit, and we were just kind of both sitting and smiling, kind of enjoying being together and bringing this important information forward. And then Michelle shared how that just made her heart happy, which then made me smile, and I was happy. And she shared a little bit of how she started her writing journey. So Michelle, I'd love for you to share that.
Absolutely. When I first started my blog, it was a little intimidating to be this vulnerable in a public way, but I decided to write to my younger self. Every time I would write a blog post, I would think, what would have helped me? And so I would write my blog post to my younger self, and that was a very cathartic healing experience for me. Mm-hmm. And then as I began to help other people, I would have them in mind as I would write posts. You know, sometimes were topics that would come up in conversations or questions that came up on my social media, and I would write to those people. I would write to them, and it was such a beautiful experience for me to think of the individual that I was helping. It made it feel purposeful and valuable, and it made it worth it to be open and exposed in the way that I am. And then I finally started to realize I need to write this into a book, because often when I would try to answer questions for people, it felt like so much information, and I thought, I don't want to overwhelm somebody, but I want to give them all the information, you know, the things that I've learned over the past 14 plus years as I've gone through my healing journey. And so that's what inspired the book, was a desire to provide all the tools in a way that is easily consumable, and that somebody can take at their own pace, you know, as they're ready to receive it.
Beautiful. And refer back to and highlight and mark in whatever way they process. So that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that, because one of the things I know many of us have a dream or desire to share something with the world, and to especially that author kind of calling to bring something forward, it can seem so daunting. So I really appreciate you sharing a little bit of your journey in that and how you kind of made that step from blogging to the book and why, which is brilliant. And I'd love for you to share. That brings us to your books. I'd love for you to share the title of your book, what it's about. I know it's coming out soon. Listeners, you want to mark this date on your calendar, October 15th. This book will be available, and you'll want to mark that date on your calendar, because when it's released, there's going to be that special rate of $1.99 for the first 24 to 48 hours. So wonderful opportunity to lean in, get a copy at a special rate, and start bringing this wisdom and insight into your heart and life. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Michelle. I'd love for you to tell us the title of your book, what is it about, and who is it really for? How can it really help our listeners out there and people that they know and themselves?
Absolutely. So the title of the book is The Upside of Bipolar, 7 Steps to Heal Your Disorder. And then there's a subtitle, A Research-Based Integrated Method for Healing and Recovery. And when I wrote this book, I wanted it to be, I love self-help books. I love books that teach you how. And so I wanted to write a self-help book, but I also realized that in order for somebody to really fully understand what I was presenting to them, they needed to know my background and my story. So the beginning of it, the first section of the book is 4 chapters, and it's my story. I share my experience and the things that led to my diagnosis and my experience afterwards. And then I go into the steps, and the next 7 chapters are the 7 steps to healing. And I've written it in a way that provides how I found each of the steps personally and how it worked in my life, and then I present the research. And I've read a lot of books as I've gone through this healing journey for myself, and some of them were very difficult to read because I was reading books about research. And I didn't want that for the people I was sharing this with, because I know for me, when I was really struggling with my illness, I had a hard time focusing to read. And so reading things that were very difficult was hard for me. And so I wanted to make sure that it was very accessible. And then I also provide all of the resources that I've utilized in the back of the book. So if somebody is curious and wants to read it for themselves, they can.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Your story in it as you read it is inspiring. And I know some of the people who have gotten to see an advanced copy were just in awe of your perseverance and what you've gone through and how you've come this full circle to where you are today. So that in and of itself, I think, is encouraging and inspiring to all of us that have or are facing hard times or may in the future. I think give us encouragement and hope. And then the research that you have is very powerful. People can go as deep as they want. And then also you have these amazing tools and processes that you've created. We talked about one a little bit earlier in the last segment, to really help come alongside people so that they can start to take the steps and have a really personalized support system. Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Certainly. I wanted the book to be a resource that somebody could use to map their own path to healing. And it took time for me to develop these things. It's interesting, trying to put it into a book in a clear, concise way was an interesting journey for me because it didn't come this way to me. My experience wasn't clear and concise. I had no idea that I was healing. But it was a really beneficial experience for me to figure out how to present this to somebody else in a way that they could receive it and understand it and apply it in their own life. And so developing the Mood Cycle Survival Guide, I had for myself. It wasn't developed in this clear way that it's presented, but I wanted to make sure that it was easy to use, easy to personalize, easy, for somebody to, there's 4 steps in it, and each one is very clear and concise and easy to personalize. And, I provide that for free for people on my website, so you don't even have to buy the book for that. But then, with I go through and teach people what I wish somebody had taught me. In the experience that I went through with cross titration, switching from micronutrient or medications to micronutrients, there were a lot of lessons that I learned along the way that I wish somebody had been able to guide me through. It would have made it so much easier. And so I provide all of those things, what I learned, what I wish I'd known. Same thing with therapy. I hated therapy for the first 10 years, 15 years of my experience with it. I resisted it. I didn't understand it. I didn't feel like it was helping me. And then as I started to learn how therapy could be an effective tool, and I started to learn the different ways that I could be more proactive with it, and then started to learn what the different modalities were and what they were for and how they could be utilized. Those were things that why didn't somebody just teach me this at the beginning? It would have made it so much easier. And so that, again, what I teach about therapy is how to use it in a proactive way, what the tools and tips are that will help make therapy extremely effective for you. And so that's what I do in each of the steps in the book is not only the research, but how somebody can apply these things in their own life.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And towards the end of our time together today, I'll have you share your website so that people can stay connected, go deeper, and also access this powerful tool. Do you mind sharing what that tool title is again?
It's called a Mood Cycle Survival Guide. And it's interesting because I was speaking with my sister-in-law one day. She doesn't have bipolar. She's just a busy mom. And this was a couple years ago, actually. And as I was talking about this and sharing what I had been doing and developing it for public use, she kept saying, I think I could use that. I think I could use that. And I realized this tool isn't just for somebody with bipolar. It's actually a super effective tool for anybody who has stress and, things that they struggle with, sometimes has low mood. It's just a really great way to be proactive and kind of step into the driver's seat of your life and identify, the first step is identifying who your team is, who are the people you can ask for help when you need it. And then the second step is what I call your early warning system, how to identify when you are starting to struggle emotionally, when you're starting to experience symptoms, or what triggers might trigger difficulty for you. And then, again, we talked about the power priorities. That's step 3. That I walk people through how to identify what your power priorities are. And then the fourth step is how do you get yourself back into a healthy mental state? So creating a plan so that you don't just keep suffering and struggling, that you are proactive about getting yourself back into a healthy mental state.
Wonderful. So powerful. Thank you for walking us through that a little bit and giving people a taste. And actually, I won't make everybody wait. So while it's fresh in everybody's heart and mind, do you mind sharing your website where they can go to access this tool and download it? I'd appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. And I'm giving you 2 different websites because we're actually making everything. We're trying to bring everything into line with the book right now. But my current website is myupsideofdown.com. And that's the blog. If you go on there, there's in my blog, there's a link to my podcast. But there's also a little tab that says free, and that's where you can access that Mood Cycle Survival Guide. And anybody can get it. It's really a really powerful tool. And it's like I said, it's free for anybody who wants to use it. Eventually, the website will be theupsideofbipolar.com. But my Upside of Down will continue to work. We'll make sure that continues to work so people don't get stranded.
Beautiful. So can you give the old website right now, again, that title again, or a link again?
myupsideofdown.com.
Perfect. Beautiful. And as you mentioned, you're lining everything up with the book that's coming out on October 15th. We're very excited about that. And I'm going to be helping sharing it out. So that'll be on October 15th, special rate, first 24 to 48 hours. We'll be helping share it out. But also, if you download the gift and you get on Michelle's list, she'll be able to email you the special link. So you don't have to worry and track everything, that you can lean in and take advantage of that special rate as it's being released. So do you mind giving the title of your book? And this will be on Amazon. It'll be available initially in a Kindle format that'll have a digital format. You don't have to have a Kindle device, but a digital format. You'll be able to connect, download, and enjoy it instantly off of Amazon starting on October 15th. What is the full title of your book again?
It's The Upside of Bipolar, 7 Steps to Heal Your Disorder. And it's a research-based integrated method for healing and recovery.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I just celebrate that this book is coming forward. I found it really impactful and lots of great tips and tools, and it expanded my understanding of things. So I highly recommend it. I hope that you lean in, you add this to your calendar, and you take a look. And I think everybody should download this amazing gift that Michelle is making available. We are getting ready to go to our next commercial break. So as we do so, this is a wonderful opportunity to go in and download that gift if you are leaning in and want to do so, and an opportunity to really think about some of the things that Michelle has been sharing with us. And we'll continue our conversation in just 2 minutes.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
Announcing a powerful new TV channel featuring programs designed to enhance and transform your life. Make powerful connections, one program at a time. And by doing so, we can bring transformation to the world. Tune in each week to Empowered Connections TV as we add new programs to help you make empowered connections of your own. Visit empoweredconnectionstv.com. That's empoweredconnectionstv.com. And make the most of an incredible life transformation.
You need to live up to your full potential. You've heard that for years, but now there's a channel to help you get there. Introducing the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Our listeners have told us that they want to be motivated, hear about success stories, and positive encouragement around the clock. And we've responded to you. The Voice America Empowerment Channel is the home of the world's top life coaches, entrepreneurs, and success experts. Listen to the Voice America Empowerment Channel. It's here at voiceamericaempowerment.com.
Rebecca Hall Gruyter's Speaker Talent Search is looking for speakers wanting to get on more stages. With just one audition, you could open the doors to hundreds of speaking opportunities, reach more people, and expand your impact. Finalists get to audition live in front of leaders looking to fill all kinds of speaking opportunities. Apply now at speakertalentsearch.com. That's speakertalentsearch.com. We look forward to hearing your message.
Find out what makes the most successful people tick. Keep listening to the Voice America Empowerment Channel. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives with your host, Rebecca Hall Gruyter. If you have a question or comment for Rebecca or her guest, we'd love to hear from you. Please call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to Rebecca at yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. Now back to Empowering Women, Transforming Lives.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you took the opportunity to lean in and add that powerful tool to your toolbox and to your life. I'm very excited about it and know that it can really help all of us that are facing challenging times or really liking to be able to navigate when our moods do shift and change and maybe not be hijacked as much as can happen sometimes when we might get triggered or facing something challenging, but really having a guide to help support us, I think is really powerful. Michelle, anything you would add to that?
No, I really hope people will take advantage of it. It's really a very practical tool.
Good. Beautiful. One of the things they're talking about behind the scenes is that you frequently get people reaching out to you that are wanting to have you or find a way to help someone that they love. And so I just wanted to bring that forward and have you share how do you respond when somebody comes to you about that or is wanting to help someone they love?
Yeah, there are a few things that I share with people. It's very distressing to see somebody that you love suffering in that way, and it can make you feel very helpless. It's confusing when you see somebody, in a manic state making decisions that are damaging to them or to other people. They're behaving in ways that maybe don't feel normal to you. When somebody's struggling with depression, just can't even get themselves out of bed, it's very hard to know how to help. And one of the challenges with this is that if somebody isn't ready for help, there's not much you can do for them. But I always encourage people, number one, educate yourself. I have I have a Facebook group for women with bipolar, and I have a lot of moms in there, moms of children with bipolar, partners of people with bipolar, and I encourage them to learn as much as they can, learn about what is really happening with their loved one, and what tools would be beneficial for them so that if they ever do come to you for help, that you will be in a position to help them. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I encourage them to do is, especially if it's somebody close to you that you're living with, is to make sure that you're seeking therapy yourself, to make sure you understand how to have healthy boundaries. It can be very difficult when you have a close relationship with somebody who is struggling with these types of things to have healthy boundaries, but it is not good for them or for you to have unhealthy boundaries. And so it's really important to make sure you're seeking support for yourself in knowing how to identify, establish, and hold healthy boundaries in those situations.
Thank you. I think that is really, really great advice and important to get support, to understand, but people also have to be ready for help to receive it as well. And I think that's an important reminder as well. And I feel like so much in your book and the survival guide and so many things that you are bringing forward can really help all of us maintain a more balanced and healthier emotional state and mental state. I think there are some really great tips and tools that are will enhance all of our lives, and particularly those struggling with a bipolar diagnosis or symptoms. So I just thank you for leaning in, being willing to share with us today. I know it's a busy time right before your book is coming out, and your willingness to share your story, to bring what you have discovered forward. It will help so many hearts and lives. So I thank you for that. And I'd love for you to share your contact information so people have that again. And again, the full title of your book, in case anybody missed it, October 15th. I want to make sure everyone has the date. But would you share that information with us again?
Absolutely. So my website is the best resource for everything. It's kind of a hub for everything. So it's myupsideofdown.com. And if you go on there, there are links to my socials. You can access my podcast. My podcast is called The Upside of Bipolar. And I have amazing guests on my podcast that are experts in different areas that are beneficial to the healing process. And then you can also email me. My email is Michelle, Michelle, at myupsideofdown.com. And I love to hear from people and to point people to great resources and answer questions if I can. So I'm very happy to receive emails from people.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Michelle, for joining us and sharing. And as we bring our time together to close, do you just have a final tip, thought, or reminder you want to give our listeners in the final moments here?
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to talk about is being curious. I think that a lot of times we are very judgmental of ourselves. We're very harsh, and a lot of times we judge behaviors, we judge emotional states, and instead of judging ourselves all the time, just get curious. If you lost your temper with somebody, why did I do that? Just ask questions, be curious about it, because curiosity can lead to discovery. And when you can discover, you can heal, you can mend relationships, you can, mend unhealthy coping mechanisms, unhealthy boundaries, so just be curious. Be curious.
Beautiful. Thank you. Be curious, lean in, see what you discover. Mm-hmm. Listeners, I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you have page or multiple page of notes and things that you've leaned into, you've discovered, you're putting together in your toolbox. And I encourage you to connect with Michelle. Keep that conversation going. Really bring those tools and supports into your life, because you are absolutely needed, valuable. There's no one else just like you. And the world is a better place for you being in it. And the biggest gift you can give the world is finding ways to take exquisite care of you, support of you, so that you can share more of the amazing gift of who you are with the world. That's how we can create a positive ripple and make a difference, heart by heart, life by life. So as you go forward, as you go out into the day, you get to choose how you step forward. The day's not in charge, I promise. You get to choose. And I hope that you choose to bloom where you're planted and shine. Have an amazing week, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for joining us this week for Empowering Women, Transforming Lives. Please tune in again for another edition with your host, Rebecca Hall-Gruyter, next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, on the Voice America Empowerment Channel, with a replay on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Variety Channel. Have a beautiful week, and may you always bloom where you're planted and shine.